Good morning, members, and to our viewing public who are watching today's budget hearing through our social media platform. Today, the chair will now call this budget hearing to order for the Department of Public Safety. And with 9 members from the Standing Committee of Ways and Means, we have duly established a quorum. So with that, we are now on item 2. Do I hear a motion to adopt today's agenda? There is a motion to adopt today's agenda. It has been seconded. Discussion on that motion. Ready? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Motion adopted. Moving along, we are now on item 3, public comments. If the podium now is open for any members of the public who are here with us this morning who wishes to make comments. Seeing that there is no public comments, we move further down on our order of business, and that's item 4, introduction and statement from the chair. So at this time, I want to thank you, Commissioner Macoronas, and your team for coming before the Standing Committee on Ways and Means to discuss your budget requests and also the submission and proposal from the administration, executive branch. So with that, let me recognize and introduce the members of the Standing Committee. I am Chairman J.P. Sablon. To my left, we have Vice Chair Representative B.J. Atto. We also have our floor leader, Representative Marisa Flores. To our left, we have Representative Vincent O'Don. And to his left, we have Representative Ralph Yumo. And to his left, we have Representative Roman Beneventi. To his left, we have Representative Julie Ogo. And on the other side of the aisle, we have Representative Joe Flores. And to his left, we have Representative Malcolm Omar. And to his left, we have Representative Denita Yangtemay. Also assisting our Standing Committee this morning are our Bureau staff with our Legal Counsel, Joe Hallahan. We have our Budget Analysis, TJ Rabago. We have our Senior Legislative Assistant, Ms. Claire Sablon. We have our IT, Jonathan Diaz, and we are also here assisted by our Sergeant at Arms, Pete Towai. Also assisting the Standing Committee this morning from the administration is Ms. Vicky Villagomez from OMB. So with that said, Commissioner Macoronas, at this time, I give you the floor for your opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to introduce you to my team. To my right, to your left, is Kay Enos, who is the Director of Administration. To her right is Esther De Los Reyes. She's the Human Resource Specialist. And to the backside of me are the command staff, the assistant chiefs that are within the Department of Public Safety. To my left will be Chief Jose Saurus. To his right is Captain Juan Mendiola, is the Internal Affairs Officer. To his right is Assistant Chief Bernard Santos, who is the Acting Motor Vehicle Director. Director Eric David is off island fulfilling his FEMA obligation. And to his right is Captain Ramon De La Cruz of the Marine Patrol Section. Thank you again, Chairman, for inviting us to come before you. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I am Anthony Macoronas. I am the Commissioner of Public Safety. I come before you with deep respect for this body's role in shaping the future of our Commonwealth, and with great urgency on behalf of the men and women of the Department of Public Safety, who serves in the front lines of law enforcement every single day. As the 15th Commissioner for Public Safety, I am here to present our department's budget priorities, and more importantly, to ask for your support in making public safety a top funding priority for the coming year. Public safety is the foundation of every thriving community. When residents feel safe, when children can go to school without fear, when business can operate securely, and when families can rest at night and with peace of mind, we build a Commonwealth where opportunity, stability, and prosperity can flourish. But this sense of safety is not automatic. It is made possible by the hard work, courage, and sacrifice of our officers, and it makes me backed by the full weight of institutional and legislative support. Our department faces real and growing challenges. Our responsibilities continue to expand, yet our resources remain limited. As the need of our community evolve, so must our capacity to respond. This is why we are seeking increased funding across several key operational areas. These are not wish list items. They are immediate and necessary investment in the health and stability of our law enforcement infrastructure. First, we need your support for basic operational funding, including utilities, repairs, and ongoing maintenance for our facility and vehicles. These are foundational needs. Many of our patrol vehicles are aging, unreliable, and increasingly expensive to maintain. They break down in the field, delay response time, and place both our officers and public at risk. While we are grateful for the vehicles acquired through ARPA funds, these resources only go so far. We need funding at a local level to modernize our fleet and keep our response capabilities intact. Equally critical in our request for support to hire new officers. Our current staffing levels are insufficient for the demand we face. Our officers are working long hours, covering multiple roles, and bearing a workload that is not sustainable in the long term. This is not only affect morale and performance, it directly impacts public safety outcomes. By investing in new hires, we will strengthen our patrol presence, improve investigative follow-up through, and provide much-needed relief to our existing force. But recruitment alone is not enough. We must also invest in training. We are requesting funding for establishment of full-service police academy. An academy will provide training and allow us to prepare new officers in a way that reflects our cultural values, community dynamics, and legal expectation. We also need funding for ongoing specialized training in areas such as crisis response, victim-centered investigation, use of force, de-escalation techniques, and ethical policing. Professional development must be a continued process, not a one-time event, if we are to meet the standard of our community expects and deserves. In addition, our officers need the proper equipment to do the job safely and effectively. We are requesting funding for uniform, protective gear, service firearms, and modern radios. These are not extras. They are basic, essential tools for the job. Inadequate equipment not only reduces operation effectiveness, it increases risk, both our officers and public. Our radios are outdated and inconsistent, which is a serious issue in emergency response. We need dependable island-wide communication to coordinate actions and save lives. We also urge your support for overtime funding due to our staffing shortages and the 24/7 nature of public safety work. Overtime is often the only way we can ensure full coverage, especially during weekends, holidays, natural disasters, and large-scale investigations. This funding is critical to sustaining around-the-clock protection and avoiding burnout within the department. Finally, we are requesting funding to cover legal expenses. In today's environment, law enforcement agencies faces the increasingly complex legal landscape, whether it's defending the department in court, addressing personal-related claims, or ensuring compliance with evolving legal mandates. We need adequate legal resource to protect the department and the Commonwealth. Without proper legal preservations and coverage, legal representation and coverage, we expose ourselves in greater liability, delay in justice, and erosion of public trust. Let me be clear, every item in this request directly supports safer street, faster emergency response, stronger investigation, and better outcomes for victims and families. This budget request is not just only operational need. It's about the lives that depends of our services every day. It's about a child going to school, the small businesses owner opening up shops, the family enjoying a weekend evening in peace. When public safety fails, the entire community feels it. But when it is strong and well supported, it becomes the the bedrock of everything else that we build. Honorable legislatures, I know that resources are limited and that you are faced with difficult choices. But I ask you today to consider this. There is no investment more important than public safety of our community. The Department of Public Safety stands ready to work, to serve with integrity, and to be held accountable. But we cannot succeed without your support. Your investment in our department is an investment in every neighborhood, every village, every home across the islands. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your continued commitment to the safety and well-being of our community. I welcome any questions you may have and look forward to working with you to ensure a stronger, safer CNMI for all. Thank you.
Jesus Mossy, and thank you, Commissioner Macaronas, for your opening statement. And before we go further in our order of business, let me recognize Leader Roy Adda, who is also a member of the Standing Committee on Ways and Means. So perhaps let me start with my first question, Commissioner. I see that your current fiscal 2025 budget has a total of 185 NOPs. The governor's proposal to the legislature have you guys at 184. So there is a decreased variance of 13,752. So my question would be, what position was impacted by the governor's proposal, and why is it that there is a decrease in NOP? And maybe perhaps, Ms. V, if you have knowledge about this, maybe you can chime in as well.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Ms. Vicky, I got it. The reduce of funding, I'm pretty much sure because of our continued losing officers, and those positions that are vacant are left at $1 per FTEs. From fiscal year 24 to 25, I've lost 28 police officers and 1 civilian. That's really affecting the continuing maintaining our manpower resources in the department.
Right. Thank you for the response. So we can see that there is a lot of vacancy that are actually dollar appropriated, but there is also that was fully funded. So there are still reflective as vacant here on our worksheet. So my question would be, are there any efforts with your department in trying to fill these vacancy positions that are actually fully funded, aside from the dollar funded vacancies?
Yes, Chairman. We got the COPS grant. Yeah, we're using the COPS grant to hire bodies to fulfill some of these shortfalls in the department. But the COPS grant only guarantee us 3 years of sustaining those employees.
Right.
After the 3 years, we are encouraged to take them, carry on the local.
So
budget.
when you said the COPS grant, is this the grant from OIA? This is a different source
this
of
is a
grant,
different
right?
source of grant, yes.
So you use COPS grants, which is good for 3 years.
Yes.
When is this grant supposedly to mature and end?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Director K.
No, you turn it off.
Yeah, just go ahead and press the button there. When you see it red, then
Okay. There are two active COPS grants, fiscal year 2022 and fiscal year 2024.
okay.
Yes, 2022 will end in 3 years after we started it, which was last year.
Okay.
So
2024 will end
2024 will end on 2027.
2027. Okay. So clarified. Thank you for that clarification. And then, how much are there on the 2024? How much was awarded to Department of Public Safety?
There are 9 positions. I think it's 800,000, a little over $800,000.
So roughly 800
Yeah.
K, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Same for 2022.
Okay. So those perhaps position that was funded on 2022, what's funding them now to continue the funding since it has expired already on 2024? You mentioned, right?
We
Did you just carry on with the 2024 COPS
No,
grant?
no, those are new
Okay.
positions.
Okay.
The 2022 was we only hired the 9 at the end of last year.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we still have to 2027 to use it. Even if it was a 2022 grant, we usually, because it was a 2022 grant and we hired in 2024,
Okay.
they'll just extend it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so clarify. And then when you mentioned that these COPS grants, this is, they're good for 3 years, right?
Yes.
And then so we can assume that 800K annually for 3 years is what the grants.
No, it's 800 total.
In
for
totality,
3 years,
so you
yes.
split the 800 for 3 years?
Yes.
To make sure that you
Yes.
make use of it, right?
Yes.
Fully. Okay, so clarified. Also, since we're already talking about grants, and then I know that just recently, Commissioner, your department got awarded from OIA 3 million, and we congratulate you guys for the efforts that are made. So with these grants from OIA, which is specifically for operations, what are the usage of this, aside from what your budget requests and proposal from the administration? So in other words, my question would be, what are these funds subsidizing the shortfalls of what we receive from the administration with its proposal?
I'm gonna have Director K answer, because
Sure, sure.
she made the breakdowns of, based on our conversation with her.
Sure.
So for the 3 million, we broke it down, requested to replace our entire fleet for patrol and highway patrol. And we requested for fuel costs, utilities, communications, and overtime. Basically, that took up the entire 3 million.
Okay, so that answers my next actually question, which is about utilities, because you were not funded currently in this fiscal year for utilities, and you are not funded as well with the governor's proposal. So this body can rest assured that you're using these funds to pay your utilities within all your department and divisions. Is that correct, Director K?
No, we haven't received the 3 million yet. So in the past, for 2 years, I believe, we were zero funded. So we've been using our revolving accounts.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
that is depleting very quickly.
What are these revolving accounts? that
So
are
we
used?
have 2 for motor vehicle, one for the license, driver's license, the other one for the vehicle registration. We also have for armory. We have for vehicle insurance, and they were all created by law.
Right.
So I don't believe, with the exception of the shooting range,
Sure.
we don't get the entire 100%. So driver's license, we get 45%.
Okay,
Registration, we get 45%. But with the us picking up the real ID, driver's license, the amount of revolving funds available went down real quick.
okay.
Yeah, we spent like 600,000 in 1 year.
Wow. So, so we can assume that all these revolving funds, if you gather it all together, where you guys are actually collecting roughly a ballpark figure at 600 and above thousand annually?
No,
Or this is just one single revolving fund that's collecting that amount? Because you mentioned several. You mentioned motor vehicle, driver's license, vehicle registration, armory, and insurance. So do you have that breakdown of each
Yeah.
revolving and how much it's accumulating on an annual basis?
yeah, it's under special funds, but I also printed out an updated account because we don't see for example the annual maintenance for the real ID program. We just executed that contract in April,
Okay,
but I do not see the charges for that $385,000 contract
Right.
on
okay.
revolving fund.
Maybe perhaps this August body can make that request to Secretary of Finance. But thank you for that response. So with that, the chair now will open up questions to the members of the standing committee. And before I do that, let me recognize two of the members of the standing committee. That's Representative Patrick San Nicolas, who is here with us, and Representative TJ Manglonia, who is also here with us. So with that, let me recognize the Vice Chairman for continued questions and answers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, good morning to your team. Thank you for joining us this morning. Just some follow-up questions real quick on the 24 police officers that you guys have lost from FY 24 to 25. Are those inclusive of Rhoda and Tinian as well?
No,
Only Saipan?
only Saipan.
Do you know how many of you've lost on Rhoda or Tinian?
I cannot vouch for the two islands because they maintain their own officers that are on hand or who have left the department.
Okay, so the department doesn't funnel down to the respective senatorial district?
No,
No?
no.
So those DPS employees are not central government employees?
They fall under the municipality of the respective island, but operation-wise, they do report to my office, operation-wise. Administrative, they report to the mayor's office and the delegate.
Okay. Do you, as a commissioner and as a longtime police officer, do you recommend putting all these line item department employees under you guys' office so you kind of have control over that?
I'm pretty much sure that there's an existing law that only allows me to oversee them on operation, as I said, operation-wise, but administrative. But to your question is, it is something that we can sit down and talk about it, because again, each island has a different, because they do report to the mayors, and they have their own responsibility in each island.
They have their own, I know they have their own resident directors, but it almost seems in our hearings with the first and second senatorial district, and this is not picking on DPS,
Yeah.
you guys happen to be the first ones that we have as a department and a line item department and administration. It almost seems that when it comes to own timesheets, that's really their responsibility, right?
Yes.
And then beyond that, I think that, for me personally, I think I was telling the members that it's important that we maintain them under the department, so that when you apply for grants, for example, do you guys utilize those numbers for Rhoda and Tinian? Do you guys include them as a part of the workforce for the Department of Public Safety?
That could be taken into consideration to to add them as part of the workforce for the cinema.
Sure. This is just because you don't want to compete, right, with the first and second senatorial district. For example,
Yes.
under Amendment 25, they're allowed to apply for grants directly under the mayor's office.
Yes.
But now when DPS is competing with the mayor's office of Rhoda and Tinian for public safety grants, it kind of puts you guys in a predicament where they're more rural in a sense, that the grants would be more beneficial to them than rather than the department in itself. So because the department itself should be generating for everybody else. Is that something that maybe down the road, maybe not this time, but maybe down the road, that's something that we should be considering?
Yes, we can consider that, but again, Mr. Chairman, it's been a practice. I mean, before I even came to this
Sure,
position,
sure.
it's been a practice that they, all I know is that they report as operation. But again, that will be taken into consideration that we can also make them part of it, so that we can equally distribute some of these resources that they're also
Sure.
be affected of.
Okay, and then now with the OIA grant, the $3 million, I guess same question. Does that funnel down to the first and second senatorial district?
No,
Because they don't qualify for the OIA grant, correct? Right?
Good. I am not sure, Vice, as to how the recipients to this, but I was told that I think it was just awarded to a senatorial district,
To the Senate,
the third senatorial district.
meaning to the central government, not the third senatorial district. To the Department of
Saipan.
Public
Yeah.
Saipan,
Saipan.
Sinamay,
Yes.
not Saipan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, Sinamay. And Sinamay is inclusive of
Yeah.
Rhoda and Tinian.
Yeah, but I think that it's been specifically that this award is given to the third senatorial district, which is Saipan.
Okay.
That's to my understanding.
Okay.
As to how it was ended there is just beyond
Okay.
my knowledge.
Yeah, we kind of want to clear that. I know that you guys have lost our DPS. I guess Tinian, they've lost maybe 14 officers, if I'm not mistaken, in our budget hearing with them. Granted, right, there's a lot of action going on in Tinian. There's a lot of opportunities for them to move on to different private sector jobs down there. But I think that's where it makes it difficult for the department per se, like U.S. Commissioner of DPS in regards to funneling down authority. It kind of blocks you in a sense, and then the resident directors are appointed by the mayors, confirmed by the councils, and they really just answer to the mayor.
The mayor, yes.
Right?
And I appreciate that, Vice, because that's what I was trying to get into. That I think there's just some boundary that kind of restricts me to going beyond because of the authority of the mayor that maintains the island.
Sure.
That kind of bars me from going further than that. But
Yes, and I think that's where it's really important for commissioners, not just DPS and secretaries, to be able to work downward as well, or to work sideways to the municipalities, so that we can potentially generate more grants, no, in a sense, so that we can utilize their numbers. We're not competing with each other. So at the end of the day, Department of Public Safety, Tinian or Rhoda or even Saipan is still a state Department of Public Safety. It's not a municipal public safety, right?
exactly.
And I know that's their challenge, because majority of the funds obviously happens here, right? More vehicles are registered here, more licenses are registered here, and they won't even get crumbs by the time they distribute these funds, because you guys are utilizing it to pay your utilities, but yet when they're gonna certify police officers from these respective senatorial districts, they have to come to you guys to get the certification, correct? Okay. And how many other than the other revolving accounts that you had mentioned, Ms. Kay, how many other revolving accounts you have? I know you mentioned 4 driver's license, vehicle registration, armory, and vehicle insurance. Do you know how much, not breaking out, just a rough number of the total and revolving accounts that you collect on an annual basis?
Well, I put together a breakdown of revolving and special funds. Special funds, when they run out, they run out. But the revolving accounts are, what we have are technically for motor vehicle, the range. We have one for impound lot. Then we have one for non-essential services, which is the public safety enhancement program. Those are the only revolving funds we have. I have a total, not including the last 2 months of fuel and utilities. So I have 536,655 left.
That's currently in the account. But on an annual basis, what's the rough number that you would collect on those? Yeah. I know it's difficult, right? Because as soon as it comes in, you guys are utilizing it at the same time. Okay.
Yeah.
How about the special accounts?
So the special accounts, they're really, like one of it was the U2 reimbursement. That's one. The other one is, I think that's the only special account.
How much is in that?
That one there's 100. No, there's not 100. There is 1350, 150,000. But that account currently pays during the austerity.
Okay.
We needed the civilians on board,
Okay.
including motor vehicle. So that one paid for our 12.5%.
Okay.
The governor's submission continued that
And that
for
account's
this year.
and that account's depleting already. As
Yeah,
we
and I don't know that we are able to
sustain.
afford that, yeah.
Okay. And I know that Rep. Flores has a legislation to actually distribute the what was known as the Judicial Building Fund. So we're working on that legislation to assist with the DPS. Now, with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I yield my time. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Vice. Any members have questions for our commissioner and his team? Let me recognize Representative Marisa Flores.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner and team. Nice to see you here. Where do we begin, right? We've been here in the 23rd legislature seeking funding to aid in public safety. At this point, it becomes a need. It's no longer an option to have meaningful discussions if we are not going to accommodate the need, which is most definitely provide public safety to the community. But before I begin with my line of questioning, I just have a follow-up from Rep. BJ's question, and he mentioned about the $3 million that was awarded through OIA. That money was actually awarded during a public hearing in Rhoda, and I think that was part of the discussion at the time. And from my knowledge, that $3 million could be, it was awarded, yes, to the Commonwealth. However, and I don't know who was there, but to my understanding, the $3 million is available, yes, for public safety operations. However, Rhoda and Tinian could avail of funding from the $3 million, but they too would have to put in a submission of request, which would be 12.5% of the $3 million reward. Is that correct?
That is,
That's what I heard.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not really.
Ms. Vicky, can you please shed some light to that?
Good morning. Yes. So the $3 million is a law enforcement grant to the Commonwealth. However, that $3 million was an allocation from the
Insular
total
affairs.
amount that was awarded to the Commonwealth, which is, I think it was $8.1 million. $3 million of that went to the law enforcement.
Correct.
And it's not only to the Department of Public Safety, but it includes defense and corrections. And so the current grant that we have, it included ABTC, the AG's office, and the Division of Customs. But for the current grant award, the new grant award that was announced, the CNMI, although it has been announced and as awarded, we have not received the grant document. So we're still waiting for the grant document so that we can allocate that funding. So just overall, the $3 million was taken from an allocation from the Saipan, there's Saipan, Tinian, and Rota, 75% of the total grant award would go to Saipan, and then 12.5% each would go to Tinian and Rota. So if Tinian and Rota were to be included, they would have to submit a request to the governor saying, or requesting that an allocation for law enforcement should be considered for the two other senatorial districts
Okay, but at 12.5,
at 12.5 of whatever is allocated to Tinian and Rota.
justified,
Yes.
12.5, no more, no less. Or does it
It's-
vary?
So, the $3 million of the total grant award is 48% taken from, the infrastructure funding. So there's more money going, or just about 50%, almost 50% going towards operations for the law enforcement.
Okay, so here's my question, Ms. Vicky. Chairman, may I continue?
Please proceed.
If the award is 3 million in totality for law enforcement, which includes DFEMS and all the other entities that provide that particular function, how much will CNMI, the third senatorial district, be receiving in that $3 million?
If it was to be allocated at the 75, 12.5, and 12.5, it would be 2.2 million for Saipan and about 375,000 each for Tinian and Rota.
Thank you, Ms. Vicky. Okay, so thank you for that clarification. I think that's very important because we don't want our neighboring islands of Rota and Tinian assuming that we're gonna take the whole 3 million. But to clarify, because we needed to really understand what that money was, I was under the impression that the $3 million was actually for the third senatorial district. But now that you've clarified that, we know that roughly $2.2 million will be allocated to the third senatorial district with everything else funneled through, correct?
So the $3 million right now is an allocation that was taken from the infrastructure for Saipan. So it's really a third senatorial district allocation. Now with Rota and Tinian participating, they would have to submit a request
Okay.
and do a request for an amendment to the grant so that it would be broken down like how I mentioned.
Yes, got you. Okay, so that takes care of that. Thank you, Ms. Vicky, for clarifying that. Okay, now I noticed we were talking about special funds, but before I get to that, one of the things that I had mentioned in the 23rd budget hearing was your organizational chart, Commissioner. Has that been updated? Has any restructuring or any kind of
This is the latest one I sent this morning.
restructure in your organizational chart been improved? Or has it not? Yes or no?
This morning. Yeah.
It's okay. There's no right or wrong answer. And the reason why I'm getting to that is because I understand within the department, there's civilians, there's traffic, there's all kinds of divisions within your institution. And that's why I'm asking, because I need to understand that so that we really paint a picture of how big your organization is.
So we
Okay.
do have the latest, Representative Flores. And like you mentioned, there is a lot of employees that are duplicate, meaning administrative assistant, there's quite a few numbers of that. And, and so for that, I am meeting with OPM director to kind of clarify it and see what other position we can change those administrative, maybe like clerk 1, clerk 2, or procurement officer 1.
So you're in the process of doing this.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Now, when I'm looking at your proposal, which was submitted to the governor, we see the list of your employees. And I noticed that you have admin. There's several. Some fall under the commissioner's office. How many staff do you have in the commissioner's office?
Under the commissioner's office, I have 2. That's currently, but under the organization's chart would be 5. 5
Okay.
that falls under me.
All right, so that would be you and another person. Both positions are filled, or just yours?
They're they're in the process of, and I mean also including one PIO that is soon to get
Okay,
on
so the
board.
PIO is one FTE that needs to be filled
Yes.
for this 2026 budget, correct?
25. It's in the process to be filled.
Okay, but it's going to come out of this 2026 budget. You put it into fund in this particular fiscal year? Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. And that will be treated as a civilian, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And then, so altogether, you'll have 5 under the commissioner's office, which includes you.
Yes.
All right. And these are all locally funded?
Yes.
Ms. Kay, how much in total funds for the 5 FTEs under the commission's office in which you're asking?
No, I think we're confusing a little. In the what is this? The submission, there's only 2 FTEs.
Okay.
But under his office, he oversees directly 5 different people.
Right, so under the commissioner's office, I'm only talking about the commissioner. How many people under the commissioner's office? Because he has his own budget.
Well, under his own budget, there's only 2.
Okay. And both are locally funded?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, how much?
About 80-some thousand, 85,000.
Okay.
86.
That's including of his salary of what, 54,000?
Yes.
Wow, Commissioner.
Oh, hold on. Commissioner? Continue. Look, continue. Oh. Including the fringe and everything, it's about 130.
Got you.
But only
Okay.
for 2.
And that's local.
Yes.
All right. Which we do have, I'm just trying to ask you, so because I need to make sure that we're all speaking the same language here, okay? So on motor vehicles, this is, I guess the director is off island?
Yes.
All right. How many people under him?
There are currently 12 positions under the motor vehicle.
Are they all federally funded?
No.
How many are locally funded?
They're all locally funded except one.
Okay.
That's for, no, it's not, but it's not included here. That's for the vessel registration.
Uh-huh.
The technician is getting paid for under the recreational boating safety grant.
All right, and the total ask under your administration, based on your budget narrative to OMB, was $736,300.
For,
Is that right?
for motor vehicle?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Motor vehicle's different. Sorry, my bad. 407,768, is that correct? What you submitted to OMB? Or is it 61,200?
We're requesting for a motor vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
For the positions, we're requesting for 342,000. That's our submission.
You're right, I'm looking at your submission. Your submission is important to me. Okay. So, Department of Public Safety, Bureau of Motor Vehicles, chart number 11150,300.
Yes.
You are now requesting for 61,200 in operational supplies.
Oh, I thought you were talking about personnel. So operations, yes, we are.
Okay, so in totality, Ms. Enos, including operational supplies, just for motor vehicle alone, locally funded, how much are you asking for?
407,700.
Okay, got you. Now, okay. And so, I see that, does this include the real ID? Supplies and operations, does this include that? No?
No, it doesn't.
Does this pay for any subscriptions for the real ID?
No.
And where would you find that money if you needed to pay for the subscriptions?
We were using the revolving account
Okay,
that come in every year for the driver's license and the vehicle registration.
okay, assuming you don't have any more in revolving accounts because you're using it to pay for other needs of the department, where would you find, you won't be funding subscriptions for Real ID then, correct?
Correct.
All right, so how much in subscriptions do you pay for Real ID?
Subscription alone is roughly $400,000.
400,000. And this is for the entire year?
Yes.
What does this include? Does this include maintenance and
Yes.
repair?
Yes.
Okay, that's all inclusive, 400,000.
Yes.
Okay. Do you pay any fees to any kind of committee or any kind of agency in the federal government?
We do, but it's very minimal.
Okay,
Minimal.
How much is that?
Like, for example, we pay 1,600 for, God, I don't know, the AMVA.
Okay,
That's the Motor Vehicle Association.
AMBA. Okay.
Yes.
And that's what you pay for the Real ID. Okay. We're
It's not
still
only
at-
for real ID, it's for the entire motor vehicle.
For the, okay, for
Yeah.
them. So then here, I'm looking at your submission for motor vehicles. The dues and subscriptions is not included of 400,000 for the Real ID. I do not see any repairs and maintenance. Is this gonna come out anywhere else outside of motor vehicle?
Technically, we were depending on the revolving accounts, but we noticed that the governor's submission shows that the revolving accounts were to be suspended and diverted to the general fund,
Got you. Okay.
which
so
means it's zero.
so technically you're short
Yes.
400,000.
Yes.
All right.
And that's only the maintenance.
Right.
That does not include their daily operations, like for ink. They use quite a large, a big amount of ink for the printing of the license, the registration, office supplies, basically.
Okay, so what you have on office supplies here is 33,000. You're short also there then. Because that doesn't include the ink, doesn't include the card for the Real ID.
No, this submission does not include any real ID breakdown.
Why?
we were gonna fund those through the driver's license revolving account.
And that's a special fund account, correct?
Yes.
All right, now let's. Is this that's the account you're talking about? 3564. Okay, so, and this is supposedly suspended. Ms. V? Organization number 51150300, sub-account number 1503A as in Apple. The current balance shows 2.6 million, is that still correct?
The report I ran as of yesterday reflects that the balance for that account is about 120,000.
Okay, so we can't touch that if we were gonna do anything. And then can you take me down to organizational number 51150300, sub-account number 3564? Is the available balance less than 800,000?
Yes.
It's $325,050.
And these were the identified funds that were supposed to be used, if available, to support the Real ID. Is that correct, Ms. Kay?
Yes, we did. We did use it this year in April, but I didn't see it as an encumbrance in the account. So I wrote it down, and I specifically took out 270 from the 3564 because when they did the contract, I don't know where they obligated these funds to pay for the contract. Contract total is 385,000.
Okay, we'll just say 400 for easy math, no? Commissioner, now that Rep. Atto's here, I noticed, and we were talking about the 3 million and the structure. Would it make more sense if we go back and maybe, because Tinian and Rhoda have resident heads and they report to the resident head, which is maybe similar to a commissioner in their municipality. But wouldn't it make more sense if you were going to reorganize to treat it as if the state public safety is one, right? Then you have in
Yes.
your chart, you have Rhoda, Saipan, and Tinian.
Yes.
And then you have, going down, you have your traffic, whatever, investigation. Wouldn't that make more sense if you were to reorganize?
In a way, yes.
Okay. And then right now you cannot do that because their resident heads act similar to a commissioner and they don't report to you.
Yes.
Okay. But you give help to Road and Tinian, correct?
Yes.
In terms of funding resource.
Yes.
Okay. This past year, did you assist Rhoda or Tinian in any funds to help make sure that meeting the mission of public safety is achieved?
Yes.
Okay. Can you, and how much was that?
I didn't total that. What we did was we went down and we asked them. Well, we were very concerned because the Department of Public Safety there did not have a single landline working.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
And so we went down and offered, before we went down, we asked them, what do you need right now to get you moving forward?
Okay.
So when we went down, we took their balance for IT&E and paid it
Okay.
and brought down vehicle supplies to include, not batteries, to include like brake pads, tires. There's a repair shop down there. We repaired some of those things there. We brought them office supplies. And then we made sure I had logistics people go with us to make sure that they, whatever we can provide, we'll give it to them.
Okay,
Tinian is supposedly scheduled for next week.
okay, good.
Yeah.
So you're very much aware of the needs between the two sister islands?
Yes, we offer when we have, but we make sure we take care of Saipan first before we extend out to the two islands.
Because that really is the function of the municipality, right? The mayor? Is that
Yeah,
right?
because they request for their own budget.
Uh-huh,
But going back to Vice Atao's question earlier, when we apply for grants, we apply as the CNMI.
okay.
So the
Just-
numbers in Rhoda and Tinian, we do use them.
Okay, so they're included.
Yes,
Okay.
so we have
That's
the boating safety program there. We also have highway patrol.
Okay,
We fund them.
all right.
Not necessarily everything, but specific things like cars, boats,
Okay,
fuel.
all right. And I'm basing myself based on the department's request on the narrative. I'm not looking at the governor's proposal. I'm looking at exactly what you need, okay? So let's go down to the police division, which is the bulk of your budget. So 4.8 million is needed to cover wages and salaries
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
retirement and health insurance and holiday pay. The number of positions in your FY 2026 budget request was 169. Is that correct?
It's correct.
Okay, and that would also fill the dollar FTE. Is that inclusive of that?
Which one?
All the dollar FTEs that were provided by the governor on the governor's proposal, that's not inclusive of the 169?
No.
So they took out.
No. They included it.
They included,
Yeah.
so it's in there.
Yes.
Okay. At the department?
You know, technically, so sometimes he has problem with it.
Okay,
So, you know, it's not a real 911 system. It's just an ordinary rotary system where you just dial 911 and it goes to there.
okay, so in communications, that was zeroed out.
Oh, I got that. For communications, we have it all under administration.
Okay, so the administration will be paying for the
For the entire
communications for
department.
the traffic.
Yeah, the entire
Okay, it's all
department.
there, all right,
Yeah.
got it.
RPS.
So on the repairs and maintenance, is that going to repair the computer system in which you guys log in all of your calls, distress calls and what have you?
Everything, including vehicles. This is for police, right?
Yes.
Yes.
That seems to be very little for repairs and maintenance. How many cars do you have on your fleet?
We have 149.
149?
Yeah.
Okay.
149, but currently we have 133 that is running.
Okay.
I think that when we reduced the repair, it was because the vehicles were technically new. But we've been wanting to change those vehicles because they're, how do you say this? They're, we don't even have a dealership for those vehicles
Yes.
here.
That's true. So technically, the cars that were purchased before your time, Commissioner, what funding, Ms. Kay, what funding was that used for COVID?
No, that was U2.
U2,
The first
okay.
one.
All right.
And the second one was ARPA. And I think that one still shows in the commissioner's account.
Okay. So you're gonna change this entire fleet, outright purchase, new or used?
New.
New? Okay. And you were showing about 40,000 to 50,000 each,
Per.
correct,
vehicle,
right?
yes.
So 149 vehicles will be purchased, no?
No.
How many?
When we submitted our request, that was technically just for patrol and highway patrol.
Okay,
Because they're the main.
so how many vehicles?
I think I put
So,
30.
so, yeah,
30?
For patrol, we need to replace 29 vehicles.
Okay, so we'll just say 30, just in case, backup. Okay, 30 vehicles, which you need to purchase. All right. And you will be using the, if and when we get it, the 300 million, correct?
2 million.
Would that be locally sourced? You're buying it
Yes.
from a local
Yes.
dealership?
Yes.
And not a vehicle sales?
No.
Because apparently there's some confusion between vehicle sales and dealership. So you will be buying it from a dealership, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My next question is, you have on this police division, Ms. Kay, judgments against government, 100,000. The class code is 690220. Then you also have confidential informant funds of 100,000.
Yes.
Is that locally sourced?
Yeah.
And that's what you're asking the local government to fund?
Yeah. But I think the judgment is taken care of, no?
Yes.
Ms. V? The judgment against government, in the event that we have.
If there are any judgments against government and the AG sends down an order that, that funding has to be, or that particular order has to be paid up, then we would identify sources from lapses of the general fund, and that is what we would allocate for judgments against government.
Okay. So, assuming that they also have a confidential informant funds, and that's also locally, that's to, I guess, Crime Stoppers? Is
No.
that what that- No?
No, Crime
DEA
Stop-
stuff?
That's
No,
drug
drugs.
enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is locally sourced? This is local money that you're asking? So, Ms. Kay, assuming that the governor appropriates 100,000 for this,
Then,
would this be saved in a interest bearing
no,
for them to use?
no,
So you just draw down, you ask,
yes,
and they'll give you the money, whatever it is you're asking for?
yes.
Okay. So in totality, Ms. Kay, for the police division alone, which is traffic, victims against domestic violence, you're project coordinators, correct?
No, basically they're all the police.
All the
except
police.
federally funded ones.
Oh, boy. So that's 7 million is what you're asking for. Okay. And this will fund everybody,
All the
in
police.
all of them.
Investigation, patrol, evidence, CST, crime scene, everything.
Okay.
That's not funded federally.
All right, so in local funds, that's not federally funded, take me through this process. Let me see your organization, because this is important, because everyone just thinks that it's just traffic. And everyone assumes that when there's a crime, nobody's doing anything about it, okay? So this 7 million, traffic, okay, that's done. And within traffic, what other divisions do you have within traffic?
We have the highway patrol section.
Okay.
That's traffic.
Okay,
We have the patrol section.
okay,
That's for patrol.
okay,
We have the criminal investigation.
okay.
That's another section.
That's another section. What
Yeah,
else?
We have boating safety.
Boating
That's
safety.
another.
Okay,
Logistics.
Logistics.
Which falls under general support.
okay.
We have the Coban.
Coal
Which is
ban.
also patrol.
Okay.
We have the impound lot.
Impound lot.
Yes.
Okay.
Armory.
Armory.
Sex offender registry.
Sex offender registry.
Yeah.
Summons
Summons and warrants.
and warrants.
Summons and warrants.
Motor carrier.
Motor
safety,
carrier. Okay.
Evidence. The special operations group.
Special ops group.
Critical incident response team.
Critical incidents response
Yeah,
team.
We have the officers assigned to the records and firearms.
Okay, records and firearms,
The K9, we have the
K9.
K9 unit,
okay.
and the,
Substations.
substations.
Substation, that's 16 within the department alone. You
Yeah.
got 16 other divisions, departments, offices, legs, whatever it is you want to call it. 16 others. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's inclusive of the 7 million. How did you operate last year? Were any of these FTEs within these 16 agencies or these divisions, were there any that were unfunded? Yes?
Were there any,
Were there any unfunded FTEs?
all
Last
of
year,
this?
last year.
Well,
Because you're
I
asking
think in
for
the
it again, right?
yeah, I think in the beginning, well, we wanted to increase our manpower. And that's the reason why we got those dollar
Okay.
FTEs.
And that would bring you 100% to meeting your goals and objectives and your mission from the department, right?
Just about.
Just that, just
Include-
basic.
Yes.
We're not even saying exceptional at this
No,
point. It's just basic coverage. Okay. So, we know that the one position for the commissioner's office is a PIO, right? So here's my question. How much, I don't know if this is a council question or a Ms. V question, with all of the earmark funds that we cannot touch, would the administration, Ms. K, be open to even unsuspending any of these funds, knowing that we are short to provide DPS with its adequate supports? I mean, we took away communications, what else? Repair and maintenance. What is the number? I mean, I cannot stress enough how important DPS is because of public safety. That's everybody's right to feel safe. But I just don't get how would the administration be open to giving more money to DPS? And unsuspending funds that are actually allocated for them.
Thank you for that question. So in the governor's proposal, there's that list and breakdown of the budgetary resources. And part of that budgetary resource is the vehicle registration and the operator's license fees that are unsuspended earmarked. So it still goes back to the department. So
Ms. K,
those-
oh, okay, go ahead. Sorry, Ms. V.
So those funds could still be used by the department for purposes of meeting their operational needs.
All right. So, assuming it's maybe 2 million, can we be assured that all of that will go to DPS if it's intended for that purpose?
So right now, what is anticipated as projected is $1.6 million. Perhaps maybe if DPS is a little bit more aggressive in going out there and, capturing that lost revenue from registration fees that have expired or license fees that are expired. I mean, those are, lost revenues for the department that they can use for their current operations or future operations within that department.
I agree with you, Ms. V, and hands down, I think the most that they will collect is from the central government because none of our cars are insured. Well, at least the ones on lease are, but anything else outside of that, no insurance. So they'll actually be collecting from the government, probably not even anybody, very minimal number of civilians, but I'll bet you that if they go out there and do that, that would be a huge blemish on the central government or the government in itself because majority of our cars are not even insured. So I don't know, maybe that's something you can consider. Because I'll be sure that I won't support any bills that says that the government is excluded from getting tickets for non-insurance vehicles. If they're gonna impound, impound it. If they're gonna pay it, if they're not insured, take their car away. I have some more questions, but I think I'm gonna let this round robin go, and see where my colleagues stand as far as what they would like to see happen for DPS. At this time, Chairman, I yield my time until,
Thank
if
you,
we have an opportunity.
Representative Marisa Flores. Ms. V, I see that there is some variance with regards to personnel and their fringe benefits. So I guess my question to you would be, are the calculations on the governor's proposal sufficient enough? Because there is apparently variance with the department's requests, and those are under fringe benefits. And also, my second question to you, there is also variances on the OPA fees. So perhaps, is that also in line on the governor's proposal on OPA fees?
So on the OPA fees, and it depends on which org you're looking at, if it's across all of the divisions within DPS. So the OPA fees is calculated based on the governor's proposal and not based on what the department has submitted.
Okay, so, but I guess my question would be, because there's a difference of calculation, right? I'm just assuming that we're in line with what's required to be paid under OPA fees.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
And as far as fringe benefits as well, we make adjustments to the fringe benefits based on the participation of, the
401K
the
and
employees,
the
yes.
DC and DB plan, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And one more thing, Chairman. So earlier you mentioned about the 184 FTEs versus the 185. There was one lateral transfer from police to the commissioner's office.
Okay, so that's why it's reflective under section police stipend that there's a
One less.
one less. Okay, so clarified. Thank you for that. Mr. Commissioner, I know that you spoke on your opening remarks with regards to professional services, right? And you are perhaps asking assistance. So, what are these professional services that you encounter on a fiscal year that needs to be addressed?
I think some of the professional services we need is counseling for the officers.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
one of the greatest. As you know, as officers get burned out, we leave them behind. That we're not helping them to cope with some of those burden that they carry on a
Okay.
day-to-day basis. So that's one of the professional services we need.
You need to assist your officers, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
But you do have strong representation from the Attorney General's office with regards to whatever issues out there that pertains to your police officers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the other services is the drug testing that we need to implement.
Okay, drug testing. That's very important. So that leads me to my next question, which is under overtime. I see that you were zero funded on overtime this current fiscal year,
Yes.
and you were also not funded for overtime according to the governor's proposal. So my question to you right now, thus far in this current budget, how much of overtime have you already paid your men and women? Because I know that you requested for 100,000 for overtime. So I guess my first question would be, thus far, have the department accumulated overtime payments, and what is that figure right now?
The approximate figure is 794,500.
794,000 thus far.
Yes.
So with your request of 100,000 for overtime, it's actually way less with what you're accumulating on an annual basis.
Yes.
That is correct.
Yes.
And then, so my next question would be, what is funding this overtime right now as we speak? Are you using revolving funds to fund this overtime thus far? Because we're
No,
we're
no.
about to end this fiscal year on September. So, what source of funding is paying for this overtime right now?
Some of this funding is paid through the general fund. Until the latest I received that finance cannot be paying overtime out of the general fund because of the local law 23-26 under section 705E. It really states that DPS and DFMs has to fund their overtime through outside sources. Right now, I have not identified any outside sources, particularly
Yeah.
with the revolving fund. I do not have enough to pay all the officers.
Yeah, because that's really troubling to hear, actually, Commissioner, because this current budget, as revised, wasn't none was appropriated for overtime. So maybe Ms. V, you wanna shed a little bit light to the members. What are the source of funding that's paying right now this overtime when it's not funded under the budget?
Currently, like how the commissioner had mentioned, the general fund has absorbed the overtime expense for police, and there's the report that I ran this morning including federal programs, and I would have to subtract the ARPA overtime because that has already, it doesn't exist anymore. But overall, it was $2.017 million overtime for the Department of Public Safety. In the general fund alone, there's about what he said, 794,000. But there's also that provision in the budget that says that all overtime has to be paid using
By
an outside
external funds, right?
external funds. And so there are multiple external funds that they have. One of the funds that we can utilize to pay for this overtime is the law enforcement account. However, DPS has almost fully exhausted the previous law enforcement grant account. There's about 52,000 left
Right.
that we can expense transfer to that org.
Right.
And then there are other sources. Also, I see that there is a pending, still available from the allocation from the last compact impact that was awarded to the Department of Public Safety. There's
How
a
much
small
was that?
balance there. I think there's about 42,000 that they can still use. Of course, that's just about 90,000, and their total overtime expense is over 700 some thousand.
Right, right.
which,
And you're right, Ms. V, that the current revised budget provides that provision that under overtime that DPS can use outside resources. So for this current, Ms. K, what are that outside resources that are using? You have to use none. So how are these men and women in blue are getting paid with their overtime? Well, what resources is being used?
We usually report it, and they will charge it, which what Ms. V said earlier. They how do you say that? Charge it to the police account, which brings it to a negative balance.
But isn't it that it's your department that's processing that account and not necessarily the Office of Management and Budget?
No, it's not them, but we report it in their summary timesheets.
Okay, so
There is no other account to put there except the local account.
okay, so you report it, and then Department of Finance
Pays it.
deals with where are they going to pull it, right?
Yes.
Is what you're trying to say. Are there any communication going down to Department of Public Safety from Department of Finance, like kind of giving you a breakdown, like this is where I took this amount from this source of funding to accommodate the thus far 700 plus thousand in overtime.
No,
Are there any?
my understanding is all overtime for police is getting paid for by the police local account.
Local accounts?
Yeah, that's it. Where the 700,000 is, we do get communications that we should cut overtime costs.
Okay,
But there are just some instances where we just cannot cut it.
okay.
But we have been making, we have been cutting a lot in the past.
Right, I think that's very concerning
yeah.
because we need to have some accountability as we
Yeah.
move forward, right? So maybe perhaps when we meet with the Secretary of Finance, we will perhaps dip into those discussions and kind of get more clarity on that. Any members for the first round? Follow-up question. Let me recognize the Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Julie. Sorry, just a follow-up question regarding the fringe benefits. I know that the submission that the department provided the committee is inclusive of its insurance and I guess the different types of retirement possibilities, no, 401k, DB plan, and the Social Security.
Yes.
Within the Department of Public Safety, I know that the request should be to the highest possible because open enrollments are in different dates than the fiscal year's ending. Just off the top of your head, through all the employees under the Department of Public Safety, how many are actual recipients of the group health life insurance?
It's in here. That's a lot of employees.
Yeah, but just off the top of your head, because I'm trying to, we're just looking at the breakdown, no, because some would be qualified for like Medicaid, for example, no, so they opt out of the group health life insurance to take advantage of the Medicaid opportunities. But I know when you submit a budget, you should include the group health life insurance, provided that the employees have that opportunity come open enrollment should they be disqualified from the benefits under Medicaid. So I guess the rough number that we're looking at, maybe to kind of help you guys in distributing the funds a little bit.
Yeah, I can't really say how many, but every year.
Just an amount, a rough
Well,
amount.
for a year, let's say for 1 year for an employee that gets a family insurance. 13,011. Hold on. That's I think it's 11,000
A month?
a year. Yeah, so yeah.
That's per employee, no?
Per
at the,
employee.
At the highest,
For
high
family,
option, no?
yes,
High
yeah.
option. How about the fringe benefits, meaning DB plan or DC plan? How much are we paying out from
We
that?
only have 2 people under the DB plan.
Okay.
That's the commissioner and another police officer.
I think the commissioner can't get out of that because unfortunately he cannot get the recomputation either, no, down the road. But how about the DC plan?
So the DC plan, and we put it in here, there are certain, it's usually the younger people that have the 401,
Okay.
but there's not a lot,
There's not a lot.
no.
But of course, when you propose a budget, from the department, you want to include that should they do decide to join in, because it's going to be an obligation that's it's an unfunded liability technically if we don't include that in the budget submission from the department.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe Ms. Kay, let's say 100 or 50 under the DB plan?
Insurance?
Yeah.
DC?
DC, sorry, DC.
DC, just about, maybe
About 50?
100 or less than.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the group health life insurance, out of the 100+ employees, about 50% are receiving group health life
Yes.
insurance?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
And that's at the highest option, or the family option?
No, when we calculate their, so if their insurance is for the high option single, we put that exact amount. For the family, we put that exact amount. For the employee,
But again, when we submit the budget, we still need to include at the highest option, should they decide come November, December to participate in the group health life insurance. Because if we don't include that in the budget, that would mean that that's an unfunded
Negative.
liability to the department.
we'll do that next year. I guess we have so many employees. If we did that, we'd be way over.
Yes, that $7
$9
million would turn
Yeah.
into some closer to
Yes.
$12 million. So.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for being conservative
Considerate.
and considerate to the submission of the budget. With that, I yield my time again, Mr.
Thank you, Vice. So for the first round, recognize Representative Julie Ogo.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner, and your staff, directors, for participating in today's hearing. And also, I appreciate Rep. Marisa and Rep. Atto for, getting the questions out and the answers you've given as far as from the first senatorial district. And the municipality is very appreciative of you, Commissioner, for, trying to help whatever you can, for Rhoda's needs, DPS Rhoda. So my first question is, well, first of all, Rhoda's DPS only has one revolving account, which is the driver's license, which is pretty much zeroed out, And so according to the information that I've been receiving from that department in Rhoda, they also collected others like registration, firearms, vessel registration, complaint reports, traffic crash reports. The only thing all of these are being deposited into the general funds. And according to your staff, Saipan received 45% out of their vehicle registration fundings. Is that correct? Only 45%.
Yes, it's supposed to be the same for Rhoda and Tinian.
Rhoda's never received a penny. Not one penny.
Well, when I went there, I actually helped them. I told them that because they only showed me the driver's license revolving account.
That's the only one they
Yeah.
have access to.
Yeah, so they get 45% of Rhoda's driver's license fees.
Yeah, driver's license because
Yeah.
that's what they have
Yeah,
access to.
so I told them that they needed to open, so whatever we have, they should have. We have the impound lot. The problem with Rhoda and Tinia is that they don't have an impound
That's correct. Yes.
station. So they don't collect from that. But they can collect from vehicle registration. I don't know that they were, an account was created for Rhoda and Tinian.
There's
But-
I'm sorry. They gave me an account number, general fund account number 121-50500. What is that account?
I think that's their local account.
Their local account in the general funds.
Yes.
May I ask how much is in this account, Ms. Vicky?
Can I provide that information later on? I'm trying to connect to that system, but
Okay.
it keeps dropping.
All right. Yes. Okay. If I can get that information at a later time. I understand that, there is a line drawn when it comes down to the administration part of the DPS and Rhoda that, Commissioner said he can't really step over, right? Now, when it comes to the operations though, training, I'm very concerned with training because for example, firearms certification. There's one instructor in Rhoda that received training back in 2018. His license or certification expired in 2021. So right now, Rhoda doesn't have the funding to send this instructor off island, for recertification to be an instructor. Right now, I'm not even sure if any of the officers in Rhoda are being certified for firearms. And on top of that, all of them also are overdue for CPR and first aid training. And is this something that the central DPS can take on? Providing fundings for training for Rhoda and Tinian. Mr. Commissioner?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
But to your question, Representative Ogo, there's also federal funded trainings that are coming up that's going to avail for Rhoda and Tinian.
And what are those trainings for?
Those are the traffic investigations that's coming up. There's other training like the A-Ride. We have also boating. That's trainings coming up that will also be offered to Rhoda and Tinian as well.
And they also mentioned fingerprinting training. Is that for all officers that's required to have a fingerprinting training?
It's not a requirement, but it's essential
Essential.
part of their responsibility. But
Okay.
we can provide, we'll look into that and provide that training to them.
Yes, and, we just want to make sure that, all officers for the cinema have the same level of training as, as,
Yes. And I should know, I don't know if you're aware that at times Rhoda would go over to Guam and get training, and I'm not aware.
I know about that
Yeah.
because they actually reached out to the delegation asking to fund that,
Okay.
training, which, obviously, the delegation don't have money either.
Okay.
And of
Yeah.
course, the municipality, the mayor is struggling on her end.
Well, there's
But
one.
but they were able to pull it out of the driver's license revolving account, which that's what it exhausted it actually.
There was one particular training that I already appointed somebody to, or made a request to them to select, not knowing that there's already been a pre-selected that are heading to Guam, the same training as that person that been offered. So that's a thing that I even reached out to then acting Resident Director Captain Calvo.
Yeah.
That something like this you have to let me know, because we will not have to duplicate some of these things that I intend to help you, but then you already have you have planned ahead of having these kinds of training. So training to train the officers is one of my priorities.
Yes.
So
Very crucial.
I'm not limited. I'm not deviating from them. I'm also including them into the training. So whatever trainings, as far as the CPR and first aid, we are going to look into that. Probably fire can help us with that.
Okay.
But I know I have plans to send Chief Saris down to train them on the use of tourniquets, which is a vital equipment that each officer should have on their duty belt. As our community is fun with a lot of this party going on, and a lot of chopping and cuttings going. An accident might occur, and the officers might be the last resort to saving that person's life. So that's one of the trainings that will be incorporated this coming before the end of the year, that I'll have to accommodate for Rhoda and as well as Tinian.
Yes. And we appreciate that very much, Commissioner. So, I think, yeah. I believe that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Ogo. Anybody else for the first round? Rep. Joe Flores, please.
Good morning, Commissioner. How are you?
Good morning, Representative. I'm good. And you?
Good, very good. Thank you for coming for your hearing. My first question is, how many, you mentioned earlier, how many basically personnel directly under your account or your office?
How many
Under him, and is in the account?
People?
Under his account, under his office only? How many
There are
personnel?
Two.
people under his account.
So is that are personally under, what's their title under?
It's only the commissioner and the public information officer.
So the commissioner, do you have a secretary under your account? Is there
That's under administration.
administration? So that's that's under his account. It's separate.
No,
That's
separate,
under
separate.
administration account, but she still reports to him.
Okay. So earlier you mentioned regarding neighboring island Tinian and Rhoda regarding the Tinian regarding their amendment 25, that you don't have any jurisdiction with their personnel there or other because they're a man under they have their own resident director. So what happens if an officer gets in trouble, something, an officer gets involved in anything? Who does the investigation? Is it they do it on their own or Saipan Police does? How's that thing work?
The process goes by, they made the report to us and then we send over our internal affairs to investigate. And then upon investigation, they compile everything and it's forwarded over to my office for decision making.
So basically, you still have saved under in your like we mentioned regarding your operation, that's in coinciding the operation with the investigators of their officers. Other that's the only thing that you do for them other than an assistant.
Well, there's some assistance that they ask for that I will provide. One of them is their, like for example, Tinian, their Pika Fest or other festivities that they need. I will accommodate them with several officers from Saipan. At one point, Acting Resident Director Wally Villagomez did ask me if I could augment some of those people down to, some of my personnel down to Tinian. But, you know, with my conversation with him that even Saipan is struggling, you know, that 5 would also mean a burden to some of the officers that are currently already on staff now. So, yes, I do assist them with the request that they ask for.
Okay, thank you for that. And also, my next question is, how many total personnel does DPS have? That's including admin, everybody. What's the total number?
100,
Uh,
I don't 191.
191.
181. Okay. Earlier you mentioned you have about a total of 139 or 149 vehicles.
100,
40,
133, 149 in total. 16 were out of commission, and now there's 133 vehicles that is running.
Okay, so there's 133 now in operation.
Yes.
So your number of personnel is 191, and your vehicles 133 is a difference of 40. So it's like it's a 1-to-1. Every person has the 1-to-1 vehicle.
No,
How's this work? Because your volume of vehicles is a lot, and I'm looking at your operation of gas.
well, you have to take consideration that there's sections that are given vehicles. Like admin has 5, motor vehicle has 1, patrol has 29, highway patrol has 24, CVIS, which is the commercial vehicle enforcement, has 4, boating has 7, the critical incident response team 10. As you know, it all depends on the section and the needs. And CIB has 25, Armory has 2, Building Infrastructures has 4, and of course, again, right before I came in, Representative, there's vehicles that were loaned out of the department that is still under the department's ownership.
So that will include with the 133 that the vehicles
Yes.
that have been loaned out?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So regarding regarding that overtime issue, regarding the overtime payment that you said the public has something that you cannot use your operation, is that it has to be given for the outsourced revenue?
Yes, so
What outsourced revenue is coming in to subsidize that overtime? Is there any?
and that's a good question, Representative, because right now, I spoke to Director Care about using the revolving fund, but it's not enough, you know. As you know, Representative, you left the department, we're still into that practice where we still have overtime. So right now, because of these restrictions, I have already done a lot of cut costing in the department, including the work hours, expenses in the department, the fuels and the utilities. So, if, for example, that if there's an activity which is coming up soon, which you know, I'm gonna go and pay a visit to the governor and ask him his consideration to help me pay through the general fund. But again, you know, before I even do that, I have to look on what I have. Like I said, Representative, I do not have enough to pay for the overtime. If I'm gonna do that, then it's gonna be partial, and I don't wanna do partial payment for the officers. You know, we'll pay them what they work for, so they can continue on moving with the mission of the department. But if you know, the morale of the department now is so low that if this is gonna be, if the trend is gonna be like this, Representative, it's gonna build more morale issue. So I'm trying to to sustain the morale of the department by assuring that some of the work that they work for are getting paid on a timely basis.
Just for basically to really understand regarding that outsource, how is it to be outsourced to generate, what kind of outsource revenue for the department to be doing? Can you expand that, or how are we gonna do that?
You know, I'm pretty. Well,
Generating money from outsource, how are we gonna get that? From what can the department do to outsource something?
well,
That's what I wanna figure.
well, the provision says outside source. What outside source? I don't know. I cannot. If the fees and fines from the court is given to us, that may be one of the sources, but I cannot use. I don't want to use the real ID because why? That's for the real ID's purpose. So I don't want to deficit that real ID and then come up with a lot of debt again to pay the real ID, and then it's bad enough that we're having issue with our real ID now, but the payment I need to sustain that so that when it comes for payment again, I don't have. We're now in the working process, but to your question, I do not have any other outside sources how to pay the overtime for the officers.
But maybe I don't know if this is legal or term something for you to look into it. You know, we have this building up the constructions, right? There's times when officers go there and do the traffic, and this is a construction agency. They're asking the assistant of the Department of Public Safety to do basically their duties and responsibility. I think we should look into that to tap in as probably because you're putting your manpower there, and they're the one taking the generating money, not the department. So maybe we should take a look into that, and also.
That's the reason why we already made the non-essential, which would covers that part.
But is that coming in? Is that the company paying?
Well,
Or is that something that's memo understanding but no generating revenue?
Ms. Case can answer that.
No, so let's take the Susupi construction. We did claim from DPW for payment of the officers. We cannot charge non-essential there because we need to register the non-essential services. But we can charge for their actual costs. So everything that they spent the entire time in the construction will be paid for by DPW
So
as
that-
agreed upon.
So that's in the process. That's
No, that's already done.
so it's already done. You guys been paid already.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe we can look into also the like escorting. I know it's always been an issue regarding funeral that we can always alleviate that regarding funeral escorting, but some businesses like we're trying to do point A to point B with their heavy equipments, especially the up in north with those big containers, and I see officers. Is there a charges for that company, or is just the escort the?
Like what Ms. Case said, Representative Flores, it falls under non-essential as to we have been charging until those non-essential regulations are in place and it's already running, then we can start charging. So now we have not, because we're still in the process of doing to public notification, getting public
Comments.
comments from them. So we're still in that works.
So you got any time frame? Because we're looking at the budget, we're trying to make us more funds for the Department of Public Safety, but and we keep taking out resources and we're not being funded, and that's the problem.
The non-essential services have already been translated. They are currently at the AG's office. We're waiting for them to release it so we can post it for public public comments. After the public comments, then they will adopt the regulations. Then we can start charging. All of those you were just asking, the escort, whatever, they're all in there.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Okay, my next question regarding, this is for motor vehicle. I think we were mentioning earlier regarding the REW ID. What's the update on that? Any update on the REW ID system, or is it ongoing already, or?
Okay, so the real ID, we can print real ID driver's license. They are the driver's license, provided that you are eligible for it. And only U.S. citizens, I'm sorry, not only, because including the freely associated states, they're also included in that. But then we can print them now. We're working with the vendor, which is, we're working with them to make sure that they contact the federal agencies so that they can read these IDs. So I can bring my ID to TSA and it still won't read. That's the reason why we can't use it. And it's not only here, it's also all over the US.
So let's say we print the ID today, and then the system's not working. Is that ID that you printed going to be valid when the system ongoing, or we need
Yes.
to reprogram?
Yes, it will be valid. Your ID will be, your driver's license will be used as your driver's license. As to flying within the U.S., you cannot use it yet, and that one is pending our vendors' discussions with TSA and the DHS, other agencies that require that. We're on it. But now, as for now, we're still printing driver's license, real ID.
I'll yield to the next round. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Flores. Just a follow-up question, Commissioner, to your team on the non-essential services. When is the anticipated date when they're actually going to put that out for public comments? I know that that's going to take another 90 days, no?
I think it's 30 days.
30 days?
Yeah, I spoke with Esther San Nicolas at the who is the Commonwealth registrar.
Okay.
She said that she missed when we gave it up to them in June. They missed the deadline, so they will be, I guess, signing off on it
For
it
July.
and publishing it in July.
Okay, and then by the time the AG clears that, then it goes to public comments.
Yes,
The fiscal year kind of starts, so
getting close.
can we get the regulations that you guys have come up with already, so we can include it in this budget, so we can actually start right off the bat, and should the regulations come into effect in November, December, there's no holdback, it's already, you guys are already collecting it as soon as the fiscal year begins. So is that something that DPS can provide
Yes.
this body, so we can actually include that language already in the budget, so you can start generating revenues
Yes.
through
We will,
those
Vice.
Yeah.
regulations, no?
I will provide it.
All right, thank you for that. How about other non-essential services like community events? Let's take the Liberation Grounds. Are they paying DPS for those services?
Not yet.
No.
Not yet. Not even like man hours at the very least.
No.
Really? That's a lot of money.
I did brought that issue up to the mayor. Unfortunately, the mayor can't even fund the additional
Sure.
overtime.
Maybe not the mayor's office, but the nonprofit organization that's running the Liberation Day grounds, you can charge services towards that account. So that's something maybe we can, I mean, I know that Liberation's coming to a close, but the last couple of weeks would have been some additional funds, no? 3-4 days a week.
Those things were included in the non-essential regulations, and they will be charged on man hours.
On man hours?
Yes.
Okay, so we look forward to getting that information so we can potentially include that in the budget so it can allow you guys to generate other types of funding sources, no? Provided with the regulations being finalized, but if it's not finalized by October 1st, at the very least, you know that you can start implementing it through the budget process. No, thank you very much. And anybody else for the first round? Rep Yangtomai, thank you.
Thank you, Vice. Welcome, Commissioner and Director K, everyone else. Just one quick question. Oh my goodness, I just learned about the separation of powers and all those stuff. So yeah, I think we should do the reorganizing of the DPS so they can fall under you, Commissioner. I only have one question about the boating safety, the grant. Are you still sharing it with Fish and Wildlife?
No.
No. Okay. And are you sharing it with the other senatorial districts?
Yes.
Okay. That's it. So, that's it. I don't want to go. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Denita Yangtomai. Any other members for the first round? If not, I'll recognize Representative Marisa Flores for the second round.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, guys, I know it's almost lunchtime, but, you know, we cannot just let you go and not ask all the questions. And I'm glad that our rep from Precinct 1, Rep Flores, brought that up, because then now I can hound him so that he can call the AG and see if we can get those regulations out faster. So that's good. Two things. We have a task force that comprises of OPA, DPS, and Attorney General. Is that task force MOU still in existence?
The MOU is still in existence, however, because the current person that's in charge for legal is leaving soon, so we're waiting for the replacement to come in, and then we will continue on. I had a discussion with AG Manibusan in regards to that, and it's still ongoing. It's not been dissolved. It's not been let go. But once the new attorney comes in, then we will sit down and
Okay.
put more work on it.
Okay, so the 1% that every agency gives OPA, you don't take a portion of that on the MOU? That's not included anywhere?
No.
Maybe we should go back and revisit that, and you take a portion of their allocation. Because if that's a task force, each of you guys have a different function. You should be getting some money out of that. That's a lot of money. So maybe that's something you need to talk to the AG about. I don't know if that's something we can do on the legal side, and if we can, I'll be more than happy to do that. Any money that we can get to help you is great. My next question is, we've had some sad incidences in our community, and one of the complaints that I got through the public was this autopsy. Who pays for the autopsy? Does DPS pay for that?
No.
So when you write your criminal report and your investigation report, and you recommend, who recommends the autopsy? The AG, right?
We recommend, we
To the
ask,
AG?
but the AG makes the final decision.
Okay. So does the AG pay for it?
In the old practice, they're the ones practice, they're
Okay.
the ones paying for the
All right.
services.
So when we're looking at their budget, I don't see anywhere where it says that an autopsy professional or whatever you call them is anywhere in anyone's budget. So I'm not sure who paid for the autopsy. There were several incidences that required autopsy report.
Yes.
And that puts you in a very tight position when you're talking about your judgments, because I think a lot of the judgments should be used to protect you guys,
Well,
right?
And that's the reason why I had the conversation with the AG just to clear this up, because right now, as I told him that it's the AG's obligation to pay for the services of the autopsy, but then his which is the right way, because they made a decision. I don't make the decision who's gonna go into the table and get autopsy, but who are the people who's gonna be in the morgue. It's the hospital. So it's between the AG and the hospital has to make the determination who's gonna be there, but the AG ultimately has to pay for the autopsies.
Okay, that's your opinion, that the AG should pay for the autopsy. But when you're dealing with efficiency and effectiveness of an organization, my opinion would be CHCC should be paying for it. But nowhere in their budget do I see any contingency fund there for autopsy requests. I haven't seen it. I don't see one in the AG. I definitely don't see one with DPS. But I'm using this MOU as the basis, because if that is the case, then maybe those are the things that we need to put in. Maybe we need to add CHCC in this task force, right? Just for that component. I don't know how you want to do it, Commissioner, but right now we had a problem with autopsy. And what is so embarrassing is that even a simple autopsy, we couldn't figure out who's supposed to pay it because nobody had the budgetary funds to do so. So I don't know who paid for this. I'm not going to ask this question now because I think that should be some sidebar conversation. But those are the things that I'm talking about. If you don't have a contingency plan, if there's no extra money for cushion, then it's a disservice, total disservice.
And I agree with you. I agree with you that, my last discussion with the AG, that he's leading more into CHC, should be shouldering the expense of, because one of the personnel, which is, I think, in question, is contracted to take care of part of the responsibility.
Well, we'll make sure that we have that discussion with the AG and really put that to some kind of finite decision, because when you have cases such as that and you have family calling to figure out who's going to pay for an autopsy, we've done a very poor job. All of us.
I agree with you, Representative. And
Commissioner, I'm sorry, and I think I want to take this back to Ms. K. One more thing. I'm sorry, Ms. V. Ms. V, on the federal funds, they have several funding sources. Can you just take a look at organization 411-50100? And then I believe their sub is what doesn't say, but it is the DPS Sex Offender Registry. And there is a section there under indirect costs. Commissioner, what do you use this indirect? This is something that you receive from there's that something you pay out. Pay out to who?
Central government. You pay it out to the central government.
So that goes to the executive branch because he's the expenditure authority.
No, I think that goes to, we don't know where it goes, but it's to pay for, we don't have an accounting,
Ms. K, it's not you. I'm just trying to establish once again.
and I'm trying to answer your question.
Right.
So it
Okay.
goes to the central government, whether it's finance, the governor's office, I don't know.
Okay.
But it goes, that's where it goes.
All right, got you. So who applies for this grant?
We do,
Okay. And in the grant, it asks for an expenditure authority, correct?
yes.
And who is listed on the expenditure
The
authority?
Commissioner of Public Safety.
All right, but is he the expenditure authority now?
Yes, he is.
All right, but that 9% or this indirect costs goes somewhere somewhere.
Yeah, it goes to the central government.
Central government, but we don't know exactly where.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we have so many revolving funds and all kinds of stuff, we can't even find money. But we know we don't have it. So my next, and these accounts then, Ms. V, here's my question. So these indirect costs that's being budgeted and taken to go to the central government, Ms. V, where does that go? Does that go to finance for a processing fee, or what does it do? Where does it go?
65% of it goes to the general fund, and then 35% of it goes to to OGM.
Okay, so 65% goes to the general fund. The grant is written for sex offender. But isn't it that we have to, so does that stay within just law enforcement, or can it be used anywhere that has no connection to law enforcement?
So we collect indirect costs. If there was any expense under the sex offender program. So it's a percentage each time.
Okay.
When the funds are expended under the program, there's a percentage that goes into the indirect cost. The Department of Finance would draw it down, and then again, the distribution, the 65-35 would go between the two agencies.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of distribution. I mean, it's a lot of money to trace, and it's hard to trace. So all of these federal programs that have that, then, hold on, there was one more thing that I wanted to ask. FEMA Guard Services, Ms. Kay, you mentioned something about this earlier, right?
No. Oh, well, I actually mentioned the U2 reimbursement. So this is the guard, this was when, officers were guarding the, Cobblerville Fire Station.
Oh.
Where the FEMA kept their, equipment and, materials, supplies. for
Okay, and you guys
building
got paid
houses.
for that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you
Basically,
owe?
there's no more going in there.
Okay, so one last question before I yield my time. Does DPS owe any vendors currently?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. How many?
Quite a lot.
Okay, and can you give me a number? How
Well,
much
actually,
in?
one of the biggest ones
Okay.
is actually only for the vehicles we purchased a couple years ago.
And that was to aid in the COVID, correct?
No,
No, that wasn't.
no, that
You-
was for patrol.
Okay, so did you buy it from a dealership or did you buy it from a automobile sales distributor?
I think it was put out for bid.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't involved in it,
Uh-huh.
but it was put out for bid. And then one of the vendors on island bid for it. But
Okay,
it
now-
wasn't a,
It wasn't paid.
no, it wasn't a dealership. Yes, 30% was paid.
So how much is left?
About 340 some $1,000.
And that's not included in anywhere here.
No,
And you can't pay it from any of these funds.
no. We are slowly paying our debts, but we can only go so far. We pay the little ones. Just a couple months ago, the governor's office actually helped us out with paying the Jotun Motors. We owe them like 700,000 some.
Okay, and that's all usually like a common practice. You borrow here to pay something, then you pay it back, and then you borrow again, then you pay something, then you pay it back.
Well, we actually gave 100,000 some, and that was as far as we could go. And we requested from the governor if they could find sources to pay for the remaining.
All right, well, that's unfortunate that you still have vendors that still need to be paid. I think in totality, the whole CNMI government owes a lot of money to a lot of people. I guess my question then, Ms. V, on this indirect cost, since it goes to the general fund, wouldn't it be wise if we use it to pay down their debt?
So the indirect cost, once it gets into the bucket, it's, commingled with other revenues, other general revenues that gets distributed to all of the different departments. The allocation is going through different departments and agencies.
Okay, well, Ms. K, thank you, Ms. V. Ms. K, I would really like to see how much in liability your agency owes vendors. Because if should anything happen at this point, one of the things I hear all the time outside is I hate to do business with the central government because they never pay their bills. And I would hate to see DPS be one of those agencies that vendors don't want to deal with because it involves public safety. When you got some cars and you were helping with during the COVID time and during the shutdown, I'm asking this because did DPS procure any cars, rental?
No.
No.
We rented
Okay.
vehicles.
And
We
that's
didn't
part of
buy.
your liability?
No.
No. Okay. CHCC paid for that?
No, we paid for
You
it.
paid for that?
Yes.
Okay. I yield my time for this, and unless I have any other questions, I would ask, but right now I yield my time. Thank you, Ms. Kay.
Thank you, Representative Marisa Flores. Now recognize Representative Julie Ogo.
Thank you, Chairman. The question that Rep. Marisa brought up actually kind of chimed in on a question that I have also for the Commissioner. It may not apply to DPS, maybe another department, which is Department of Correction. So my question is, who funds the escorting of a detainee from Rhoda and Tinian?
We do.
We do.
DPS, okay, because obviously Rhoda doesn't have the funds to send them up, so they
Yes.
usually reach out to the mayor,
Yes.
to fund it. And I know that they included that expenses, DPS Rhoda included that expenses under travel, and they're requesting 120,000 among other things. And unfortunately, the governor, did not give anything under that category. So it's DPS handling all of that.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it something that maybe the central office can assist on that, or, because, obviously, we don't have that funding, and the majority of our collections are going to the general fund?
If we can pay for it, we just pay for it. We don't have specific account where we pay for it, but usually it costs less than $1,000 just to bring one officer and a detainee.
Yeah. It could
And
be,
then
I mean, it
two-
may be one
two
or
here and
two.
one
That's-
back.
We don't know how many detainees will be
Yeah.
escorted up, right?
Yeah.
So it will vary.
Yeah, so we help him out where we can. But like I said, we don't have it written down anywhere. When they ask if we can fund to bring a detainee, and we say yes, then we just bring them.
And all they need to do is just request through your department.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Julie Ogo. Are there any other questions? Let me recognize Representative TJ Maglonia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Commissioner and team. And just want to say thank you and your department for all your service for our community. It's greatly appreciated. I know we're, talking about, being cash trapped at the moment, but just for forward-thinking purposes, have you guys ever thought about procuring a software to, one, have online payments for, like registration, driver's license, all those type of services. And one, it can create accountability, easier tracking. And then two, I know that in the long run, like say for instance in California, I remember, if you don't renew your registration that month, a late fee would be tacked on every month. So it kind of creates more accountability for our people as well. So has there been any sort of discussions to maybe look into that to create more efficiency within the department?
That's a great question, Representative. But I think you should ask finance, because finance controls those payment process. The only online payment you can do is your citation. If you get an e-ticket, you can pay it online.
Thank you. Yeah, just maybe something that we can collaborate with them on. And again, like I said, it'll create more efficiency as far as tracking. You guys will be able to see who's in compliance or not, and then also tacking on that little fee might also help with some revenue generation. So that's my only question. Thank you. I yield for now.
Thank you, Representative TJ Magnolia. Did you want to respond, Commissioner?
No, I was just gonna say that we're in the talks with the Director of Motor Vehicle of implementing some kind where you renew your registration through online. So that's something that I'm in discussion with him in line of the Rio ID. So I just want to incorporate that so that we can make it more efficient and more effective way for our community to.
Yeah, so even with the licenses, I remember in the States, if you pay in advance, you don't even have to go in, they'll just
Yeah.
mail you, as long as you don't have to change your picture, just mail it directly to you. There's no, you don't have to
Yes.
go in, and it's very convenient.
Yes.
So, if they're able to do it, I'm pretty sure we can,
Yes.
create something similar here. So thank you for that.
Okay,
I appreciate
all
it.
right.
Thank you, Rep. TJ Magnolia. And let me recognize Rep. Denita Yangtimay.
Sorry, I'm still thinking of that, the grant from Coast Guard, because, so you are not sharing it with Fish and Wildlife, but you used to, right? For boating safety and all those stuff?
I don't think we used to share it, but when Fish and Wildlife back then was doing the navigational aids, then we can support them. But I think that right now the navigational aids is under DPS.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So yes, because I asked for the assistance of the folks at the boating safety, because fishermen were asking about the lighthouse at the channel in what's the one across Cristo Rey Church.
Fishing base.
Yeah, fishing base. And but the thing is, there's a problem with HPO and all those stuff, so we didn't get the light, but we got reflectors. So the fishermen had to get a neat flashlight. But I think they still they want the light, and now they're also asking for the buoys. So, just,
I have them take a look at that.
yes.
Yeah.
What was that thing I was gonna say? Oh, but that's a lot of money, right? Every year you receive it from Coast Guard. So can that be used for fuels also? Just, asking.
It can be used for fuel, but only for boating safety.
You
for the
accidentally
boats
put
and
it into the patrol car.
No thanks.
Okay, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Denita Yangtimay. So we're almost aiming for the 12 o'clock mark, and let me recognize for the first time Representative Vincent O'Don.
Thank you, Chairman, and welcome, Commissioner, and your team. And so, in this fiscal year, the current fiscal year, how much grant funding have you guys applied for and been awarded in total?
1.2, about 2. I have to go back, but
A rough
ballpark,
estimate.
yeah, maybe a little over 2 million.
Over 2 million.
2 million, yeah.
Right.
For all the different programs.
Right, from different, but in total, over 2 million, right?
Yes.
So, Ms. Vicky, out of that ballpark, 2 million, how much does the governor's office or the central government take out of that 2 million?
The governor's office, none.
Or
Everything goes to the program.
that goes to the central government?
So $2.3 million is really the total federal grants that they have for multiple federal grant programs. That is
That they applied for, right? So DPS applies for this grant that's totaled over 2 million, correct? But not the totality goes to DPS. A portion of it goes to the central government, correct?
No.
everything goes to
Yeah.
DPS for their program operations.
So when we write grants, we,
The indirect cost.
with the exception of indirect
Yeah.
costs, because it's required, everything else goes to the program.
Right, right. So that indirect cost, how much indirect cost do you guys, go, or that's taken away from them?
So if you look at it, the big picture of indirect costs, like I said earlier, how everything falls into the bucket, the 65%, it gets redistributed across all the departments and agencies. And we can say that of the total collected indirect costs for the Department of Public Safety, maybe a portion of it under the general fund allocation went back to DPS because all of those general revenues went into the bucket and it gets redistributed across.
So, let's say for example, that if every government agency that applies for a grant, it goes into that general fund bucket, and then it gets redistributed again. You know, but we don't get to distribute it like equally. It's, you know, some people get more, some people get less, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, does the central government like has a priority on which one gets the most and which one gets the least? Because I'm thinking that, you know, with the crazy economy right now that we have, you know, and the growing crime rate and drugs and all of that that's going on right now, do we not think that the majority of that general fund, you know, bucket that everything gets commingled should be going to DPS?
So,
But is the governor like trying to play around with this? Because everything that I've been hearing so far within this whole budget hearing is chaos.
I think the point that we need to make clear here is that majority of these grants goes to their respective programs of different departments. I guess the question here, Ms. V, would be the indirect costs is at the purview of the administration, right? The governor decides how do we use this indirect cost that's accumulated from all grants that are received. Is that fairly correct?
we could say that, but if you look at it, like, for example, who would really benefit outside, like, the programs, like the departments? There's the Department of Finance that processes a lot: procurement, accounting, treasury, OMB, personnel. Like, these are the agencies that really support all of the departments and agencies within the central government. So a portion of that indirect cost went to all of these agencies. And I know that there was a House bill that was introduced in the 23rd legislature that supposedly was to allocate a certain percentage of that indirect cost to these agencies that should benefit from IDC.
Right, and perhaps also tap on the 65% with that legislation that you were alluding to.
Yes.
But I guess we have to be very clear here that most of those grants go to the programs. The indirect costs, though, is something that maybe not at the moment are going back to the programs. Maybe perhaps the administration is using it to kind of on other programs within the government. And that's perhaps what we've been hearing and seeing, right, as a committee. But you still have the floor, Representative Audon.
No, thank you, Chair. And that's practically what I was trying to get at, because it just seems like, you know, you know what I mean? And it's not going to where it's supposed to be going. You know, because I'm a firm believer that if they request for $1 million and they got $1 million, that all of that should be going, all of that $1 million should be going to them. You know, ti para sa Kingwan si Jose Pestanay, si Ramon pesa back and forth and nekwadisya. You know what I mean? That's just my personal opinion. Because to me, I know that a budget is the same as your household budget. You know, and it doesn't help any in the household budget when you're taking from the food and paying the power bill or vice versa, whatever it may be, because it just doesn't work that way. You got to cut somewhere. And if we're not cutting in the right place, we will never reach to the goal that we were trying to reach. Because at the end of the day, my thinking is just that this is all just total mismanagement on the central government's part. You know, and it's sad to say, but, you know, like I've always been saying, overbloated government, a lot of redundant agencies, you know, and it's costing the taxpayer a lot of money and businesses as well. You know, that's all I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Vincent Odon. So we're heading towards the 12 o'clock mark. So let me recognize Representative Yumo for the first time, and then maybe are there any other? Let's try to wrap up within the next 10 minutes. Rep Yumo, you got the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick, I'm not sure if my fellow Precinct 3 representative have asked the question with regards to this body appropriating local funds with the complaints by businesses last year. I believe we appropriate 75,000 to DPS to address the, I guess, the nuisance down in Precinct 3. How has that fund been expended with regards to purchasing equipment to patrol the businesses? Because of, you know, what little tourism we have left, we want to make sure that the visitors are at least feel safe and not being bothered while they're shopping or dining in that area. So has the fund been expended? I believe we're about to appropriate again additional funds. So we would like to hear with regards to what has been done.
Okay, so of the 75,000, we have about 35,000 remaining. Most of the money was used to replace their bicycles for the Koban, which is the unit that is stationed at the Garpan Paseo, right? Yeah, the Paseo de Marianas. They're what we call Koban, and they're a separate unit. We purchased their gears, bicycles, everything that they're going to need. So we've expended roughly 40,000.
Of course, we like to hear that you expended everything, so we have more to give.
We're actually working on it.
Okay.
So.
But yes, we do. I do support the proposal of the department with regards to the budget. I know it's going to be difficult for the chairman. I've been there before, and we're going to try to ensure that the funds that you requested are reinstated back. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rep Yumo. Any further for the last time? Let me recognize Rep Marisa Flores for the last question.
For the last time, per my chairman, so I need to wrap this up because I'm gonna get in trouble. Commissioner, real quick, I notice on your federal side you manage, there's funding sources in which you are provided. VAWA is one of them. CGPA is the custodian for all of these law enforcement agencies that deal with the Department of Justice on the federal level. At any time and at any rate, do you get a indirect cost or percentage from any non-governmental institution, the court, anywhere, DOC, that you can avail of external funds? Do they give you anything when they apply for these grants? Because you're the front line to adhere to a distress call, arrest them, and then from there you transfer them, and then it goes to somebody else for processing. And after processing, you write your report. That report goes all the way to the court. The court then will decide whether or not his bail hearing is. But do you get any percentage out of any of these grants that are awarded to the CNMI through the Department of Justice?
Well, so the CJPA applies for grants portion under the Department of Justice. The department also applies for grants under the Department of Justice. We have the COPS grant.
Okay.
And we have the sex offender grant.
But nowhere here under the Department of Justice, anybody, including the court, do they give you a percentage of the grant that they are awarded?
No, well, when we apply for the grant directly, the entire funding goes to DPS. When we apply to CJPA, what they do is they announce availability of funds.
Okay.
So we apply there, whatever we apply for, and we're given, that's the only thing we're given. But we're given, if we're awarded for the program that we applied for.
Okay, because right here under VAWA, there was a notice that there was, for law enforcement, $115,000 with a portion here, a set-aside portion of $23,000, leaving $139,000 for law enforcement. My recommendation is maybe meet up with CJPA and figure out how you guys can receive more of these fundings. Wait, go ahead.
So the VAWA is a predetermined grant.
Yeah, I know.
It says, so if it says 25% for law enforcement,
It's gonna be given to
they're
you.
they're
Got
gonna
you.
give us,
Okay,
and
I
we
just wanted-
share.
Good. I wanted to make sure that everybody, we all know that, because then
Yes.
everybody is being held accountable. My last question is, going back to this transportation of alleged criminals between the two islands, that comes out of your funding, sir? Travel included in travel? I highly recommend that you start talking to the courts, because that's why I'm advocating for this justice fund, because no way, they haven't been helping in how many years? So that should also be included, is when that time comes, you should be advocating for that too. You gotta help us advocate for that Justice Center, because that can also help you with all of this back and forth that they should actually be paying for. That should not be coming out of DPS budget. As a collaborative partner, that should be a no-brainer. Go back to your MOUs again, Commissioner and Ms. Kay. Really look at that, because you can strengthen a lot of your collaborative partnerships and start assessing nice, good fees there that you can use. Thank you, Chairman. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Marisa Flores. So if there's no further already from the members, Commissioner Macronas, and to your team, we, on behalf of this Standing Committee on Ways and Means, we do really want to extend our sincere gratitude and appreciation for coming before this body to express your requests and your concerns and your priorities, and also, for that matter, answering our questions today. We thank you for your leadership, and we thank all your men and women in blue for making sure that our Commonwealth is within law and order, and that we provide safety for our people of the Commonwealth. So with that, I'm going to give it back to you if you have any closing remarks, and you have the floor right now, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all the members. I appreciate your presence and your hearings to our needs. I also like to ask any member here, if you have chance, stop by down at the department and look into the affairs and look into the conditions of the department, so that you will get a greater picture as to how we're working at. I think a lot of the questions that you ask, or maybe be lingering in your mind, you might see down when you pay a visit down to the department. We are really trying our very best. The men and women are doing their best to going out serving our community, assuring that the safety of the community is a priority. And I continue to pray that help will come soon to augment some of our necessity in the department, most especially getting more hires to the needs to augment some of our current manpower. I look forward to that, and I continue to work with this with your members chairman, and to every representative in your respective precinct. I will continue to work and find solutions to make your precinct a more safer environment to live in. Thank you.
Jesus Mosi, and thank you, Commissioner Macaronas, for that closing remarks. So, members, we are now moving along on our item 6, which is announcement. And the chair will now announce that tomorrow, coming before this August body will be Department of Fire and Emergency Medical Services. And then the day after, and that's at 9:30, the day after, we will be having the Department of Corrections before us, and that will be at Thursday, July the 3rd. So with that, we are now in our last order of business, item 7, and that's adjournment, and the chair will now adjourn this budget hearing. We are now adjourned.